It's the Score North Twin Show.
Oh, the Twins are on the grid. Well, they were yesterday, right?
Yes, yesterday.
Yeah.
And
because we're saving it because you can go back and play previous day grids now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to go back and play the Twins on the grid later on in this episode.
Gonna be a good one. Judd will have zero. Well, no, Judd. I don't think we'll have much complaints from what I saw.
I haven't looked at it, so
okay.
It'll be a surprise.
We're gonna need some historical Judd knowledge combined with the new school knowledge of us. It's the winning recipe. So, speaking of that, we might need some historical knowledge when it comes to Joe Mauer's Hall of Fame candidacy, which starts this week because the ballot came out. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 first-timers, I believe, if I'm counting this correctly.
Wow.
12 first-timers on the Hall of Fame ballot. Adrian Beltre, generationally great defensive player at third. He almost got to 500 career homers. Handful of silver sluggers. Chase
Incredibly
Utley.
Healthy.
He's
just ridiculously durable. And probably, I would even say, like, his second half of his career is what solidified him. Like, his first half with the Dodgers was good, but the second half, the 2010s on, is what is going to definitely get him in.
Yep. I think there are some guys that are just like really, really good for a long time. And then there's guys that were peak greatness and then they kind of went away. That was kind of Joe Mauer. And then I think Beltre was really, really good for like almost 2 decades with flashes at times of being one of the best players in the league for, a handful of those years.
Didn't Beltre have sort of a weird stop in Boston for like a year and it didn't go well? And then I feel like he went to, I think, Texas possibly and really took off.
Let's see
like,
here.
like he was always solid, but like to Declan's point, in Texas, I
2010.
felt like he became a Hall of Famer.
He was incredible in Boston in 2010. He led the league in doubles. He had one of the highest OPSs of his career, batted .321, .919 OPS. I don't remember him with Boston, though.
And he was an uber prospect when he got called up by the Dodgers. And he was good, but he was not, not a bust, but he didn't live up to his prospect status until the second half of his career.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of he came onto the scene. His last year with the Dodgers was he was 25 years old. He had played 6 or 7 years in the majors with them. And then he led the league in homers in his free agency season with 48. And you're right. It was after 30 that he really locked in regular all-star. He's the headliner on this ballot. Adrian Beltre is the headliner on this ballot. Then we have Chase Utley, David Wright, longtime Met, Bartolo Colon, longtime everywhere, Matt Holliday, Adrian Gonzalez, Jose Batista, who had that. He was 30 years old and kind of, I don't know, just kind of a guy. And then mysteriously or not, just wound up changing his mechanics and having a 6-year power run for the ages.
Yep.
So Jose Reyes, Victor Martinez, James Shields, and Joseph Patrick Mauer is on this list. So my question to you guys is, do you think Joe Mauer is a Hall of Famer?
Yes, I do. I do not think he has any chance of going in first ballot, which we can debate this whole thing. But you guys know as well as I do that there's enough voters left, and it's a very extensive list, that see the first ballot as being sacred.
Yeah.
And so in my opinion, whether I agree with this or not, Joe Mauer has no chance of going in on this ballot. Adrian Beltre, I think, is going to go in, and I think he's the only first ballot guy that Phil just talked about. But I know the entire show's going to revolve around this, so I will just say this. Yes, I think he is a Hall of Fame catcher.
Yes, he's a Hall of Famer, not first ballot. I'm super curious, though, on what the first ballot looks like for him percentage-wise, because this is a crowded field. And
there's other guys from last ballot, too, that are on here still.
Right. I think Todd Helton just missed out last year. He was 72%. You need 75, right, to get into the Hall of Fame. So Correct. He just missed it by just a couple votes. So I believe he gets in. What he did as a catcher, what he did from that 2006 to 2013 stretch, where I think he had the best OBP in baseball, even, and again as a catcher, he was able to do in nationally. If these were all opinions of Minnesota sports fans, no. he is not going to get into the Hall of Fame
Isn't
for
that
whatever
crazy?
stupid reason. Yeah, it's the dumbest thing. But nationally, I think he's very well respected and regarded. But I think he's probably looking at somewhere between the 3rd and 5th year of eligibility.
If the Hall of Fame was voted on by media members 40 and younger, by the way, I think he might get in first ballot. Because I think when you look at so playoff and World Series success is important, but I think when you look at the resume as younger journalists or media members do, I think that's where his case truly resides. I think the old chewing tobacco, spitting on the ground guys will be like, well, this guy never did a thing in the postseason and he hit singles. But the more I look at the resume, the more I think that his case is really good. The issue is, and Phil, we've talked about this on shows, and you've harped on this accurately for a long time. The issue is this: the people that allowed Johan Santana to drop off the ballot immediately are a concerning group. And I'm not saying Joe's not going to drop off, but I'm just saying there's a very diversified community of people that vote. And I think the old timers are going to look at Mauer's lack of success.
Counting stats.
And he moved to first base.
Well, these are I know that a committee put Harold Baines in the Hall of Fame, but if you think Harold Baines is a Hall of Fame, and I hate to sit here and Harold Baines is a really good baseball player.
But the committee didn't. That was LaRussa. That was crap.
Okay, but if you're going to put Harold Baines in the Hall of Fame, well, how is he? At no point was he regarded as one of the great players of his era, or he was a good player for 15 or 18 years. Johan Santana was one of the 2 or 3 best starting pitchers for 7 or 8 years, multiple Cy Youngs, right? And the problem for Mauer is he is more he profiles in terms of Hall of Fame candidacy much closer to a Johan Santana than he does, an Adrian Beltre or some of these guys that were just really good until they were 38 years old. So my answer to this question, do I think Joe Mauer's a Hall of Famer? I still think the answer is yes. I agree with you guys. I don't think he's first ballot. I do think the national perception of him is higher than the local perception of him. A lot of fans spent a lot of time booing him for grounding out to second base, 4.63 Joe, hitting fly balls to the same place in left field that fell 15 feet short of the target field wall. That was a thing here locally. But I will say this. I have been bullish for 10 years that Joe Mauer, he's a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest catchers of all time. As I look a little deeper, I think he's much more fringe than I would have said 10 years ago. I think the 4 to 5 years post-catcher at first base, I think it dragged his perception down. It certainly dragged his batting average down. It dragged his on-base percentage down, the slugging percentage. And you bring up the postseason stuff. That's real to me. To not have done anything, to me, Curt Schilling is a great example of a guy. Now, Curt Schilling, is he still on the ballot, or did he get in? Remind me.
No, because he's despised by the world, which is unfortunately.
But was he on the ballot last year?
He's not on the ballot. He must have hit the 10 years off the ballot.
He's off the ballot.
Jeff Kent just came off the ballot this year. But to me, I would have put Schilling in. I don't care if he's whatever, his politics. This is about baseball. Curt Schilling was one of the greatest postseason performers of all time. Jack Morris is in the Hall of Fame because of postseason performance, right?
Puckett was the first ballot because of that. Puckett does not go in first ballot without the World Series successes, and he deserved it because of those successes. Yeah. So I hear you.
So when I think about Hall of Fame criteria or resume, I think it's kind of 3 or 4 categories. It's your numbers have to match some standard. You have to have whether you're a pitcher or an offensive player. Do your historical numbers and I'll say accomplishments and numbers have to be somewhat eye-popping or a lot eye-popping, right? Mm-hmm. Did you win an MVP, a Cy Young? It's not a prerequisite, but what do your accolades look like? I think too, if you zoom out from the stats, in general, during your era, if we expand out on either side of your playing career, like a 20 to 25 year window, were you regarded as one of the best players at your position? I think is a factor. Right. I personally think peak greatness is more important than longevity. So if you were great for 7 years and this guy over here was really good for 15 years, I'm more interested in the peak greatness of the 7-year player, the Johan Santana, than I am the Mike Mussina. And then I think postseason matters, man. And this is where Joe gets dinged. His postseason resume is basically zero. He missed a couple postseasons. He hit 280 something from a batting average standpoint. There wasn't like a big Kirby Puckett home run. I don't think Joe Mauer ever played in a playoff game that the Twins won either. So his postseason resume is 0 to negative, and that does factor in here.
It does. So here's the difference, I think, between Joe and a lot of great players that played positions at which greatness was far more commonplace. And it's where I don't think you can ding him. And I think if you do, it's idiotic. And Phil, we've talked about this as well, going back years. If Joe Mauer, after the unfortunate concussions, had come in and said, I can't play anymore, I'm just done. Which, I mean, he could have. I'm just done. I'm not going to move to first base. I'm a catcher. My career is done. I think he would have a far better chance of going into the Hall of Fame than he does right now, which on its face, in my opinion, is idiotic. But here's what Joe Mauer did like Santana peak greatness was great, but there have been a lot of great southpaw pitchers. Okay. So I think people said, well, he didn't live up to the, X, Y, and Z, the Koufaxes, blah, blah, blah. Joe Mauer is the only catcher in Major League Baseball history to win 3 batting titles and the only catcher ever in the American League to win a batting title. Yep. The only one in the history of this league. He won 3 consecutive Gold Gloves, 5 Silver Slugger awards, including 3 consecutive. He was the 2009 MVP. He did all of these things while catching.
Yep.
That to me is what separates, if this was the Pro Football Hall of Fame, at which they literally have a person make a case. My case is you've never seen catching greatness in the American League like this. Mm-hmm. So how do you not put this person in a place that honors the definition of greatness? And that doesn't even get to your Harold Baines point.
Well, and I would even add to that, there's the catcher comparison, which if you just go off accolades, everything you said is those are things to make a case for Joe Mauer, and I'll add another one. Historically, going back 100 years, depending on if you look at Fangraphs, wins above replacement, or Baseball Reference, wins above replacement, there's a little bit of a difference. Joe is one of the top 10 to 12 wins above replacement catchers in baseball history. 100 years. I went back to 1923. 100 years. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he also stopped catching when he was 30. So to put up all, and some of these guys they're grinding it out until they're 35, 36 behind the plate. Pudge Rodriguez was catching into his mid to late 30s. Also, if you expand out beyond catchers, so Joe Mauer has been worth, generally you have to have at least 40 wins above replacement, unless you're a closer. Like Billy Wagner is on the ballot. He might get in actually. You have to have at least 40 wins above replacement just to have a chance to be on the ballot and be in the conversation. So Mauer was worth 55 wins above replacement. That's equal to or better than David Ortiz, Kirby Puckett, Fred McGriff, Lou Brock, Jim Rice. There's a few others too. Now, many of those guys I just listed are also postseason heroes, right? You can say, okay, David Ortiz didn't, Joe Mauer has the Gold Glove defensive catching pedigree. David Ortiz was a DH, but David Ortiz was the biggest factor in the greatest World Series comeback, or ALCS comeback, and then they won the World Series in 2004, right? He was a postseason hero time and time again. Kirby Puckett, one of the most noteworthy postseason performances in baseball history. Lou Brock won 2 World Series with the Cardinals in the late 60s, early 70s, and he hit 400 something in one of those World Series. So some of this is I do think there's enough to balance out the lack of postseason success, but when you start to dig into boy, most Hall of Famers did something really meaningful in the playoffs. Adrian Beltre has a couple World Series home runs. Mm-hmm. Texas lost in the World Series that year. And then when you consider the last 20 to 25 years of take Mauer's era, so early 2000s through 2020, let's say, that 20-year period. It's pretty much for catchers. It's Mauer, Buster Posey, Yadier.
Posada, Victor Martinez are on the tail end of that.
And Victor kind of transitioned, didn't he, to first base DH. Another guy that kind of pops up when you look at like WAR and stuff, Brian McCann, actually. Brian McCann, same wins above replacement, also was the starting catcher for a World Series winning team with the Astros, the cheating Astros, in 2017. But it's not a big list of catchers the last like 25 to 30 years. And Mauer sits, I think Posey's probably at the top, and then Mauer sits somewhere like maybe second or third behind. Yadier probably sits second, quite frankly.
Two things. Number one, and I've had this debate numerous times with friends, numerous cocktails in or just sober, because this is always a fun conversation to have amongst my friends that are baseball nuts. If Joe Mauer had retired from baseball in 2013 after the knee issues, is he a first ballot Hall of Famer?
I don't think first ballot, but I think I think it's his candidacy is viewed as higher because,
yes.
And here's why. Now it's up to your imagination. Oh my God, look at this guy's career. Look at what it's been to this point. Highest batting average as a catcher, highest on base percentage, all these silver sluggers, and his career was cut short. Yep. If we would take the numbers he's putting up and give him 5 more years of those numbers, what would those numbers have been? But instead we got to see the 5 years and it was bad.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if he had left the game in 2013, he would have had a career average of 323, OBP of 405, 469 slugging, which is obviously a little bit low, but still the MVP, the silver sluggers, the gold gloves, everything is there. I personally believe if he had walked away from the game in 2013, which he had no intention of doing, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer because of what he did as a catcher, because of those ridiculous numbers. And yes, the imaginary factor but he also retired in his prime. He literally hit 320 as he exited that 2013 season. The other side of this is when we look at like just statistics, right? And actually, I think this helps Joe's case. If you look at Matt Holliday, who's also first year on the ballot, right? So Matt Holliday, really good numbers. Box score wise, like OPS wise, better. OPS wise is better than Joe Mauer. Has played in multiple World Series. Has won a World Series. Has like 300 at-bats in the playoffs. He's played in a ton of postseason games. But is Matt Holliday, does he have a shot of getting in the Hall of Fame, or is he probably mostly in the Hall of Very Good candidacy? So
I think he's Hall of Very Good, yeah. Yeah,
exactly. So like this is where it's just so like interesting to me, because actually as much as like we look at the baseball curmudgeon system, which I agree with is a curmudgeon system, you look at that and anyone who like is in their early 20s, like the Gen Zers, will look at Matt Holliday and Joe Mauer's stats right to left and be like, how the hell is that guy not a Hall of Famer compared to Joe Mauer?
Mm-hmm. And the thing too about this is, so yes, Joe's lack of postseason success is probably the talking point that's going to get brought up and thrown back in your face if you're trying to make the case for him. But you know, the reality is this: he played on a bunch of very good teams, not great teams. He was in a market that is certainly not that big. He himself was not a vocal guy. You know, part of his thing is, if you think about it in terms of the Twins, he's sort of the anti-Puckett, because, you know, Puckett, yes, had playoff and World Series success, but Puckett also was like Velcro for people. They were drawn to Puckett. Like he played in a small market, but he was outspoken and he was fun and gregarious and the fact that that in 91 before Game 7, he told the team, jump on my back. Now we found out that he basically said that jokingly every single night, but it's still a great story, right? Like the myth, the legend of Kirby Puckett is part of his Hall of Fame resume. Joe's got none of that, partially because Joe was a quiet dude. But I just think when you look at what this guy did at a position that so many people have played and so few have reached, and, you know, if he was Piazza in the sense that he just hit and he was an okay catcher at best.
Yeah.
I think the case might be, well, was he really that good a catcher? Because he certainly was not known as at the end, a great first baseman. But the reality was this guy did everything as far as being a great catcher and being great at the plate with what he did. The other thing that people are going to throw in your face is the home runs. Well, he didn't hit for enough power. But here's my question. And this guy played longer, and I'm not saying it's an apples to apples comparison. Do we say that about Rodney Carew?
Love this. This is a great one. Yeah. So Carew and so you look at Carew and Mauer before he moved to first base. The numbers, even if you adjust for era, like OPS plus, they're actually very similar players, right? They're batting average, on base,
great hitters,
like just guys who move the chains, right? Carew stole a bunch of bases, but Mauer was a catcher. So if you're looking for like, okay, what's the hook there? But people look at Mauer's frame. This is what happens. Like he's 6'4", 6'5". He's not like the most muscular guy, but he's super athletic, right? He was going to play quarterback Division I at Florida State. He was just an excellent basketball player also in high school. He was a multi-sport athlete. Why doesn't he hit more home runs? Now, I can tell you from covering a huge chunk of his career as a beat writer, that dude had more injuries that he did not talk about, and it hurt his public image too. It's like, wait, why doesn't he hit for more home runs? Well, because he's got back and knee problems, and he has found a swing that works for him to keep him as healthy as possible. I think he kind of, locally anyways, I think he hurt his own perception by not opening up more about the injuries that were bothering him. Yeah. I'll throw another log on the fire here for this conversation too. In 2017, he got screwed out of a first base Gold Glove award. Eric Hosmer won a Gold Glove off reputation.
Yep.
And Joe Mauer, if I remember right, like the metrics and everything, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure like the metrics pointed to Hosmer should not have won the Gold Glove, and Mauer was the best defensive first baseman.
Yes.
And according to a quick internet search, only 2 other players in baseball history have won Gold Gloves at multiple positions. Darren Erstad, outfield and first base, and Placido Polanco at second base and third base.
Uh-huh.
So he would have been the 3rd player in baseball history. Like that would have been an interesting notch on a resume, right? I'm one of 3 players in baseball history to transition to a new position and be the best at it and win a Gold Glove. So we all think he's a Hall of Famer, it sounds like. But it's kind of a matter of like, what does the committee, what do the writers, I guess, value? If they say, wow, dude, you didn't do anything in the postseason, or wow, you didn't really hit for any home runs, like there's going to be different writers that have different tastes for what they will potentially vote for.
If he was a career-long first baseman, I don't think he makes it.
Yeah.
Like if he had started day one, and you could make a very good
He might have
case
been healthier and hit bigger
True.
power numbers and stuff, though.
And there's actually a case to be made that the Twins would have done themselves and Mauer a favor for the long term if they had moved him, let's say, to first base or right field after three years, like the Stros did with Biggio. But I just think as far as what he did to define the catching position, as it can't be ignored, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I can't ignore it.
What's amazing about the power discussion, I think, because the comeback is always like, dude, he plays catcher. And I think there's a lot of fans are like, who cares? Go hit jacks. Why does that matter, right? The wear and tear on your body, even if you're only, and people used to make fun of him for not being durable, and he would sit day game after night game and stuff. Go look at his games played compared to like Byron Buxton's or some of the players in today's era that are taking load management, 2 weeks off on the injured list.
Yes.
But if you look historically at catchers, only one catcher in the 150 plus year history of Major League Baseball has hit more than 390 home runs in their career. Now, Mauer didn't even get to 200. It's Mike Piazza.
Right.
There's only 7 catchers ever that hit more than 280 career home runs. Because like you're out there, it's 90 degrees, you're crouching day after day, taking a beating, concussion, foul tips, this, that. It's just like, Bryce Harper was a catcher when he was drafted. They moved him off as an 18-year-old. You wonder if now would I think the answer is yes. Would they have moved Mauer off of catcher, go play corner outfield, go play third base, first base somewhere else?
And Piazza, for his greatness, was not a good defensive catcher.
Yeah.
Mauer was. Like you can't forget that this guy was really good. It's not like he sat behind the plate and guys stole bases consistently, and it's like, where else are we going to play Joe?
Yeah.
So like, I personally have a huge appreciation for people that excel there, because that is as tough a position as you can possibly get.
Yep. So let us know. What do you guys think? Do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
Hey,
let us
Mauer.
know. Mauer, you drink wine coolers.
Mauer, you sucked. You've always sucked. Twin Show sucks.
SAWFT, soft. Yeah, hit us up in the YouTube comment section. Do you think Joe Mauer's a Hall of Famer? Do you think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer? State your case for or against one of the great players in Twins history. Give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, too, on Apple Podcasts, if you could.
Just quickly, what if the Twins moved him to right field or first base and kept Przinsky?
Oh, dude,
That's another conversation
team
my friends love to have.
That's not a bad conversation.
Cuddy was a good. I mean, they had some good outfielders too, but Mauer would have been an athletic, rangy outfielder at that time. He would have been like Alex Gordon.
Or would you have pulled the plug slightly prematurely on Minkiewicz? Because the plug got pulled pretty quickly if you look at history.
Yeah. No, these are great questions. Would you have? Oh, man. Yeah.
Przinsky is a jerk and a jackass, but he's got a winning gene.
I mean, he has. Yeah. There's some DNA there, and there was no. I was surprised that people would boo him. Like, he's like one of the great players for a couple of years.
He spiked more, no.
I know.
But I mean, he was an SOB, but I ain't going to complain about that. Yeah. I'll take that on my team.
It's a good hypothetical. I mean, what if they would have kept David Ortiz, you know?
Oh, well, yeah, they had LaCroix. They had LaCroix. Why would you keep Ortiz?
Yeah, that soda can.
Yeah, no water, which is funny because I bet Matthew LaCroix has never drank a LaCroix in his life.
Oh, wow. Just taking shots at Matthew LaCroix's weight now. This show is completely spiraled out of tracks. Let's do an Immaculate Grid here, boys. We're going to put, let's put timing here. We're trying to cram a bunch of things in here. Flagrant howls coming up. Let's put 7 minutes on the clock here. Can we do this in 7 minutes? Twins on the grid?
Potentially.
Okay. We're looking for a twin who was a Tiger, twin who was a Diamondback, twin who was a Royal. Look at this. It's all teams. This is going to be. See, I kind of hate these. I want like one stat category.
Why?
Brewer who was a Tiger, Brewer who was a Diamondback, Brewer who was a Royal, and then a Philly who was a Tiger, Philly who was a Diamondback, Philly who was a Royal. Let's start with the Twins. I think whenever the Twins are on the grid, boys, we should be looking to go low with our score.
Absolutely.
And there are several relievers coming to my mind from when I covered the Twins beat.
This is good because these are always super low.
You want me to start throwing some names out, or you guys
throw some names out?
Okay,
throw names out.
We've seen the Twins Royals square before, and we've used Dusty Hughes. Dusty Hughes was a Royals lefty who the Twins picked up at some point because the front office, I believe, asked the Twins left-handed hitters, "Hey, who's kind of Dusty Hughes? What do you think?" And Kubel and Morneau said, as lefties, he's tough to pick up. I've
got a new one that's going to go lower than anyone for Twins Royals, not Twins Tigers.
Let's do it. No, that was Twins Royals too.
Okay, Twins Royals.
Yeah.
Tom Bergmeyer. He's from the 70s. He's a local. He's a Minnesotan who pitched for both teams. Tom, and it's B-U-R, I believe, is how it starts. Yep, there he is. Tom Bergmeyer.
Let's go.
0.7.
0.7%.
That's not as low as I was hoping for. I got to admit, I was hoping for 0.1. I was hoping for 0.1. I'm sorry.
I'm kind of just out of curiosity. I'm just gonna.
Who's the catcher?
I'm gonna plug in Dusty Hughes just to see what the percentage would have been.
Dex, who's the catcher? The Slappy who was with the Twins briefly, and then he caught for the Diamondbacks for a while.
Chris Herman.
Okay. Yeah.
Hold on. I got a different one that's gonna be lower than that. A reliever.
Okay.
I do want to see what Dusty Hughes was. When was this?
Dang.
There we go. I'm just curious. Dusty Hughes. Dusty Hughes. 0.007 on Dusty Hughes, by the way.
Damn it.
The relievers are always like the most.
Tom Bergmeyer, reliever himself.
I would have thought Tom Bergmeyer would.
I would have. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I'm very obsessed by this. Okay.
Twins Diamondbacks. There was a reliever the Twins plucked off waivers in, I believe it was September of 2011 or 2012, named Esmerling Vasquez. They plucked him off. They plucked him off waivers from the Diamondbacks. ESM. Esmerling Vasquez.
There he is.
He finished out the season with the Twins, and that was the end.
0.08.
0.08. Let's go.
Nice.
And then I'll give you the last one. Delman Young was traded in 2012 to the Detroit Tigers, and in that trade, a guy named Lester Oliveros was a reliever that the Twins acquired. Lester Oliveros. I mean, he was a major league reliever.
Up to Cole Nelson too. I used to hang out with that guy. He also was in that trade.
Yeah.
I used to hang out with
Be the club.
Hey, he's a friend of my friend. We hung out a few times.
That's good. No, that's good. It's just funny. Just funny.
All right.
Nice. Nice.
All right, so we're under 1% here with a third of the grid left, and we have
Milwaukee, Detroit, Ben Ogilvy.
3 minutes.
Ben Ogilvy. BENOGILVY.
Are we just going to rifle these, or do you want to list some names just for fun?
This has to be low, right?
Okay, we'll trust that one. Ben Ogilvy?
71 to, yeah.
Okay.
5.
Oh, higher
5%. Okay.
That must be very rare.
Aaron Hill, second baseman, power guy.
For who? For what?
Diamondbacks and Brewers. He was mostly known with the Diamondbacks and Jays, but he finished with Milwaukee.
Hold on.
Ooh, good one.
I'm gonna write. Let's slow the pace a little bit here. What's the name? Sorry, give me the name again. Aaron Hill, right?
Aaron Hill.
He was also wasn't he the Blue Jays guy that knocked out Justin Morneau in 2010?
Yes.
I
Pretty sure that's what he's famous for.
By accident, you make it sound like he purposely concussed him.
I don't know.
Guy. Felt guilty.
Craig Counsell would work here. Lyle Overbay would work here.
Yeah.
Might be a little.
And
Yeah. What's
if
the
you want a former
outfielder?
twin? A former twin that my Uncle Todd used to play Legion baseball against in the La Crosse, Wisconsin area. Damian Miller was a World Series catcher for the Diamondbacks in 01 and also played for the Brewers. Yep. Former Twins catcher. Damian Miller.
Damian?
This is too high, but didn't Jeff Jenkins play for the D-backs at the end too?
Ooh.
But that's going to be higher.
That's pretty obscure.
Yeah,
Damian Miller might be I mean, Aaron Hill is obscure too because...
Yeah, pick one of those. I like that.
I mean, Damian Miller has to be under 1%, right? I'm just thinking of former
I'm disappointed
Twins
by my guys so far. I thought they'd be less than they are. All right.
1%.
1%. Let's go.
I'm surprised it's even 1%. Kansas City and Milwaukee.
I feel like there's some Matt Stairs possibilities with Philly.
Lorenzo Cade will be the most popular.
Yeah.
Brewers. And Lorenzo
I think
Cade.
Joaquin Soria. Moustakas will be high.
Soria,
Joaquin Soria was with the Royals forever, and he bounced around.
I'm gonna write him down.
I'm trying to think of old school Royals that then that played for the Brewers or vice versa.
He still will be high-ish, but the shortstop that went in the Greinke trade, Aciles Escobar.
Yes,
there's a huge pipeline of
who's that big prospect? Who's the big prospect that he washed out?
Matt Laporta?
But that was Cleveland.
Matt Gamble?
Did he play for both?
Okay.
Scotty Podsednik played for both these teams.
He's a great guy.
Scotty Pods. And this is a great connecting franchise. The Brewers and Royals have had a lot of connections. A 90s infielder named Kevin Seitzer was on all my video games.
Good hitter.
Kevin Seitzer, like a 300 hitter.
Yeah, he was a good hitter. I think he became.
Would he be high, Kevin Seitzer?
He'd probably be higher than some of the guys you mentioned. I'm trying to think of back to the 70s if there was any movement between these teams.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Okay, just pick one.
Who? I would say Podsednik, or who was the first one? Well, Lorenzo Cain's going to be too high.
Yeah, it's gonna be too high.
Scotty Podsednik's fine.
Scotty Pods.
Yep. White Sox.
0.6.
0.6. Let's go.
Oh,
let's
wow.
go.
That's huge.
I'm surprised. Now that shocks me.
Dude, we're
That's
under
lower than I
10%.
thought.
Okay, well, Placido Polanco, we've had this square a couple times. I'm trying to remember. Placido Polanco is always the obvious Tiger.
Pitchers?
Matt Stairs. Oh, no. Matt Stairs is, he's
Matt
for
Stairs
sure
didn't play-
Kansas City.
He didn't
Did
play
play for Detroit?
right? I don't remember in Detroit.
We could use him for Kansas City. That might be high, though. Phillies, Tigers.
Would Matt Stairs be, though, like, that high? I know he's not a pitcher, but, like, where you're looking at.
Depends. How many people do you think remember Matt Stairs? But, I mean, I wouldn't have guessed Ben Ogilvy would have been 5%, so.
Did Pat Neshek play for the Tigers?
I don't remember that.
Play for the Phils.
Great baseball card collection.
Nick
Okay.
Castellanos will be high.
Another former, Judd, you'd have to help me on this one. Former Twin from the late 80s, mid 80s. For sure played with the Phillies, and I believe played for the Royals. Jim Eisenreich.
Oh, St. Cloud guy.
He played for the Royals for sure. Yep.
And he played for the, he was played in the World Series for the Phillies, didn't he? Like 93, 93.
He's a for sure.
Royals,
Yep,
and Phillies.
not Detroit. Yep, he's a for sure.
Huskies. 5%.
Still higher than I thought.
Yeah,
It's
me
okay.
too. Okay, Phillies, Diamondbacks, Phillies.
Ugh. Trying to think of these are. You have Twins. I'm just.
I mean, Phillies, Diamondbacks. Kurt
Shane
Schilling
Lowry?
and Kurt
Schilling
Schilling's
will
the
be high.
biggest one. Didi Gregorius played for both those teams. He played.
Gregorius is euphorious.
I know. It's great. God.
Should we put Matt Stairs for Tigers Phillies?
I don't think he's a Tiger.
Don't think he's a Tiger. Okay.
Oh no, you're right. I'm sorry. That's
I
Royals.
don't think he's a Tiger. You're right.
I don't remember him as a Tiger.
Okay.
Polanco for sure. I'm struggling beyond. We did this one time. I know we had this square
We
before
had
because we
this.
were like Polanco and we spent a half hour trying to figure it out. I think we have to just do Polanco
Okay.
and like Polanco and Gregorius. I got to run here. Little flagrant howls and
It's 11%.
All right.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
fine.
Gregorius.
Didi.
I hate the Diamondbacks.
This is gonna kill our rarity score, but 36 is pretty good. Okay.
Yeah. What was DD? Yeah.
Damn.
The Diamondbacks. I just these new franchises in my day. I don't really appreciate them as much.
What were the percentages on these? I'm like, only 50% completion rate. 33 on the Twins Diamondbacks. How about that? Kubel would have worked.
Kubel would have worked.
Interesting.
What's the top ones? Oh, Troy Hunter.
Chad Mulder. Wasn't he a Diamondback too? That another Twins catcher?
Yes.
Or was it
Yeah, the
Marcus?
Twins
So
sent a bunch.
Kane's photo look like it's from.
Like
what
Valley
is
Park,
that?
Valley Fair or something.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Boys.
All right, boys.
Heck of a show. I think we just solved the World's Hall of Fame problems there.
Yes, we did.
Thanks for hanging out with us on the Score North Twin Show. If we don't talk to you until after the holiday, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.